Welcome to your first official notes video. I say official notes video because this is the first video in which you will take notes that pertain to an actual section from the book, which you will eventually be tested over. Nothing really different than the other videos that you've taken. It's just a lot more down to business and getting right into the heart of French vocabulary and eventually French grammar as well. For today's video, we'll be focusing on greetings, meaning how you can say hi and bye to somebody, as well as exchanging names, so how you ask what is your name and how you give your own name and things like that. So let's go ahead and start with the greetings. Notice that on the left-hand side you have a place for saying hello to somebody, greeting somebody as you walk up to them. Some of these we've already covered in class, so they shouldn't seem too new to you. Go ahead and jot them down while I give them to you, and if you could, go ahead and repeat in the pause that I provide for you so that you're practicing saying these phrases as well. One of the easiest ways to say hello to somebody is to say bonjour. Bonjour technically means good day. The word bon means good, the word jour means day, but they put it as good morning. Basically, any time during the day while the sun's up, bonjour is an appropriate greeting. A better one once the sun has gone down and it's nighttime is to say bonsoir. Again, if you break down that word, you get bon, which is good, soir, which is nighttime or evening. Again, if you mess these up, and it's not a big deal, just be the equivalent of walking up to somebody in English and saying, hey, good evening, whenever it's the morning. Just a little strange. If you want to make sure that you don't mess it up ever, salut is your best way to go about things, because salut, again, just means good old-fashioned hi. Now on your notes page, be careful. You're going to have to go across the way here to the right-hand side to fill in your ways of saying goodbye. Lots of ways of doing that. We have a bientôt, which means see you soon. Now, before I go any further, I want to point out there are accent marks on a bientôt. It does matter which letter the accent mark goes over and which accent mark it is. So over here on letter A, and I know when I move my cursor over it, it's hard to see, there is an accent mark that goes down and to the right. Make sure that you have it there over the A and make sure it is going the correct direction. Right here over the O in a bientôt is an accent mark that almost looks like a little house. Again, make sure you're actually adding that to your notes. That is part of the spelling of the word in French. So even though as Americans we don't typically pay close attention to accent marks, in the French language it's part of what makes a word its correct spelling and the correct word. If you don't include the right accent marks, you might be saying a totally different word in French. So do pay close attention to those and try to get those as close to right as you can whenever you do practice activities in class and on tests and quizzes. All right, let's continue. In order to say see you tomorrow, you would say à demain. Demain is just the word for tomorrow, so that'll kind of help you later on in class when we get to using that word besides in this context. Two different ways of saying see you later. The first one is à plus tard, and the second one is à tout à l'heure. That's usually everybody's favorite because it sounds a little funny. À tout à l'heure. The last one is the most traditional way of saying goodbye, which is au revoir. Don't forget you can also use salut as a way of saying goodbye as well. It's right up here. I know it only says hi, but as we talked about on the first day of class, salut works for both hello and goodbye. It's kind of like aloha in that way. Another little thing I wanted to kind of clue you in on is some of the titles that we use. Whenever you go to say hello to somebody, usually you follow it up with their name, and in the case of speaking to teachers and certain adults and things like that, you might need to put a Mr. or a Miss in front of it. So let's go ahead and talk about these. The French word for Mr. is Monsieur. And you can see here on the notes that I have that M in parentheses. That's because that's the abbreviation for Monsieur in French. So just like how Mr. has the abbreviation in English of MR, in French the abbreviation for Monsieur is just the letter M capitalized with a period after it. Madame is the French word for Mrs. Its abbreviation is a capital M and then E. Just like how Mrs. in English typically refers to older ladies, or usually it's technically supposed to be married ladies, same kind of deal in French. And that's different than mademoiselle, which is the word for miss, just like how in English that usually refers to a young lady who is not yet married. So that would be MLLE is the abbreviation for mademoiselle, or in our case the abbreviation for miss, right? The other thing you might want to do is actually be able to ask somebody's name and, of course, give your own, because if you've never met them before and you just said hello to them, the very next thing you're going to want to know is what their name is. So let's go ahead and start with some of that vocabulary. To ask for somebody's name, there's a couple ways of going about this. It kind of depends on who you are asking. If you are asking about somebody else, let's say you see a really cute boy or girl in the hallway and you want to find out what his or her name is, you're not talking to them directly, you're talking about them, you're going to use these first two phrases here. Il s'appelle comment is what is his name. The word il, I-L, is the word for he. If you try to translate this word for word, which I will warn you time and time again not to do, but it literally means he calls himself how. The word como means how, which is, again, why I bring up don't translate things word for word. You'll get all kinds of confused because no English-speaking person in their right mind walks around the hallways going, he calls himself how? So be careful here. I do want to point out, though, that the word il means he, and it refers to boys because that's going to come up in a couple of sections. Elle, that word you see on the next line, E-L-L-E, is technically the word for she, and it's what you use to refer to girls. So if you ask elle s'appelle comment, you're literally asking she calls herself how, which is basically their fancy schmancy way of asking what is her name. Probably the one you'll use the most, though, is when you first walk up to somebody and you want to know what that person that you're talking to right now's name is by asking what is your name. And you say this by asking tu t'appelles comment. The word tu, that tu word at the beginning, means you, so it kind of works for asking what your name is. Now, then you have these answers. Again, this is on the right-hand side of your paper, so don't get confused as to where you're supposed to be taking these notes. If somebody asks about what an il's name is, as in what his name is, who he is, you're going to answer by using the same two words that started the question. The question is il s'appelle comment, what is his name, and your answer would be il s'appelle, and then you'd have to fill in his name. So if they point out somebody named John, you would say il s'appelle John. Same thing goes for a girl. If somebody points at a girl and her name happens to be Marie, then you'll want to say elle s'appelle Marie. But again, perhaps the most important thing here is being able to give your own name. So the way you say my name is you say je m'appelle. And then you actually have to fill in your name. So whenever somebody asks me personally, tu t'appelles comment? I say je m'appelle Madame D. And that means I call myself, literally, because the je there is the word for I, Mrs. Dinwiddie. So go ahead and jot all those things down. And again, if you need to rewind and practice saying those again, that would be great practice. You're not going to have any of this memorized by next class, but it's good to be really familiar and comfortable with the phrases. Last thing you need to take care of on your notes is your practice questions. Again, on your daily video quiz at the very beginning of class, next class, I'm going to ask you questions very similar to this. You'll be able to use these notes as long as you have them with you, so it should be very easy, but I wanted to give you an idea of what I expected you to learn and be able to kind of work with here in the upcoming class. So go ahead and take a moment, pause the video, and try these questions on your own, and then go ahead and hit play again and see if you got them right. All right, answer checking time. So for the first one, if you have to respond in a complete French sentence when somebody asks you, comment tu t'appelles? First thing you have to figure out is that when they ask you, comment tu t'appelles, they're asking you, what is your name? So when you want to respond to what is your name, you of course have to say, my name is. So for my paper, I'm writing down, je m'appelle Madame D. Now, be careful here. Please don't say your name is Mrs. D, because I don't think any of your guys' names are Mrs. D. Go ahead and make sure that you replace my name with your actual name, but the complete sentence is, je m'appelle, followed by your name. The next question has multiple correct answers. Two things you could say to your friend as you leave class. I'm basically just looking for two ways to say goodbye. Whether it's see you later, see you soon, the actual traditional word for goodbye, it's up to you. Here are two answers, though, that are for sure correct, but again, any of the four ways that I gave you, in addition to the word salut, would be really good answers for this. For my answers, I went ahead and wrote down au revoir, which is just the word for goodbye, and à demain, which is the words for see you tomorrow. At this point in time, you're done with your notes until next class. Make sure you bring them back with you. And again, anytime you need to have more practice with this or practice saying some of these, the video is always waiting for you on YouTube. See you soon.